This page is the cover of the 64Dream magazine for December 2000, which is a magazine focused on N64 and Game Boy games. The cover announces a special feature of a Legend of Zelda calendar available for everyone. The cover features characters from games such as the main character from Furai no Shiren 2 with a white squirrel, and Joanna Dark from Perfect Dark. Featured articles in this issue include a strategy guide for Furai no Shiren 2, an interview with Koichi Nakamura, and articles on Pokemon Stadium Gold and Silver, Sin and Punishment, Successor of the Earth, Custom Robo V2, Mario Party 3, and Banjo-Tooie. There is also a section where Kazuyoshi Hirabayashi discusses the Nintendo GameCube. Perfect Dark is prominently displayed on the right side with the text, "Finally released." This page is an advertisement for two Game Boy Color Mahjong games. The main game featured is called DUP Princess Mahjong Party, starring Dejiko, scheduled for release on December 8th, with features like free battles, knockout battles, communication battles, and a beginner's guide. It is priced at 3,980 yen. The advertisement also promotes Neon Genesis Evangelion Mahjong Completion Plan, which is already on sale and includes Scenario Mode, a battle against the 13 Apostles, free and communication battles, and trading cards. This version also includes a bonus of 3 special Cardass Masters cards, and is priced the same at 3,980 yen. This page is advertising a 2001 Zelda calendar featuring characters from The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, and The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask for Nintendo 64. The calendar's images can be detached and used as postcards. It comes in a clear case and is a 12-page calendar. To apply, you need to send an application form with 1,000 yen worth of unused postage stamps before the deadline of December 1st. This page is an advertisement for the Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance game, GARMS, scheduled for release in December 2000. It highlights the robot action gameplay, where you collect parts and customize your robot, especially focusing on the Halo robot, which has a massive 444 transformations available. It seems to be a role-playing game focused on robot customization and battles. This page is an advertisement for the Game Boy Color game Robots from Sunrise Interactive, scheduled for release on January 1st. The game is priced at 4,800 yen. It features Hero Bots Battle, where you collect robot data and train your hero through minigames in the Hero Dojo to improve its basic abilities. The ad highlights that Sunrise Robots have over 120 titles and that you can battle with robot data. It also mentions that friends can battle each other. The advertisement displays various robot characters and screenshots of the minigames. This page is an advertisement for a product called Kugian, the Wide Technique Garden, which is a CD-ROM compilation. It is advertised as the 2000 Summer Edition and is compatible with PlayStation CD-ROM. The advertisement highlights that it contains 1043 save data files for PlayStation memory cards and includes information on 15,826 techniques and 10,089 game introductions for a total of 17 different game consoles. These consoles include PlayStation 2, PlayStation, Dreamcast, Sega Saturn, Mega Drive, Game Gear, Nintendo 64, Game Boy, Super Famicom, Famicom, Virtual Boy, WonderSwan, Neo Geo Pocket, Neo Geo, PC-FX, and PC Engine 3DO. The advertised price is 2,000 yen. This page is the contents page for the magazine, listing the articles included in this issue. It highlights a feature on the upcoming Nintendo GameCube console and a special focus on Mystery Dungeon, Furai no Shiren 2, with an interview with Chunsoft's Nakamura Koichi. The page mentions several game previews and articles, including Pokemon Stadium Gold and Silver, Perfect Dark, Sin and Punishment, Successor of the Earth, Custom Robo V2, Mario Party 3, Banjo-Kazooie 2, Dance Dance Revolution Disney Dancing Museum, Rockman XE, Rockman-2, Great Adventure That Crosses Time, known internationally as Mega Man Legends 2, and Metal Slug Second Mission. The Game Index provides a detailed list of games covered in the magazine, categorized by platform and page number. It includes titles like Winning Post for Game Boy Advance, Air Force Delta, Eco Delta, Grandia Parallel Trippers, Mobile Denju Telefang, Modern Great Strategy Ultimate War, Command Master, Samurai Kid, GB Herobots, Megami Tensei Devil Children, Red Book and Black Book, Attack, Com Dungeon, Doruru Ruga, The Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Seasons, Fairy World Battle Record TV Anime, Fairy World Legend Shengong Yugi, Doki Doki Densetsu, Mahujin Guru Guru, Donald Duck, Goen Quackers, Doraemon, Tales of Fantasia, Narakiri Dungeon, Densha de Go 2, Hamster Paradise 3, Metarote 3 Parts Collection, and Momotaro Dentetsu 1-2. It also lists Mystery Dungeon, Furai no Shiren, 2 GB, Desert Devil Castle, and Hebaru-kun. This page is a software release calendar announcing a rush of new N64 titles towards the end of the year 2000, with about 10 games expected before the year ends, including the highly anticipated Sin and Punishment, Successor of the Earth, and Mario Party 3. The Pickup Top Hot section highlights Hayden Satina for the Game Boy Advance, described as a puzzle game featuring illustrations and number-based gameplay. It mentions the unique art style and connection to a TV show called Ugogo Ruga. The Coming Soon section showcases 4 games slated for release between October 21st and November 22nd. These are Perfect Dark for N64, released on October 21st. Custom Robo V2 for N64, due on November 10th. Mega Man Legends, Rockman-Hagane no Bukenshin for N64, planned for November 22nd. And Sin and Punishment, Successor of the Earth, Sumi to Batsu Chikyu no Keishusha for N64, releasing on November 21st. Prices are listed for each game. The right side of the page presents a release calendar for October and November 2000, detailing N64 and Game Boy software. Key N64 titles listed in the calendar are Perfect Dark, Custom Robo V2, and Sin and Punishment, Successor of the Earth. Some of the Game Boy releases mentioned include Mario Tennis GB, Keitai Denju Telefang in both Power and Speed versions, Tales of Fantasia, Narakiri Dungeon, Dance Dance Revolution GB2, Shin Megami Tensei Devil Children Red and Black Books, and Daikatana GB. This page is a software and hardware release schedule for Nintendo consoles, dated October 12th. For the Nintendo 64, October sees the release of Perfect Dark and Custom Robo V2. November brings Sin and Punishment, Successor of the Earth, Mega Man Legends 2, Banjo-Tooie, Dance Dance Revolution Disney Mix, Pokemon Stadium 2, and Mickey's Speedway USA. December has Eco Fighters Delta, Animal Leader, and Modern Great Strategy, Ultimate War. Animal Crossing is scheduled for January 2001, and another title, Dubutsu no Mori, in February 2001. There's a section for N64 titles with undecided release dates, including Conker's Bad Fur Day, Panel de Pon 64, Slip Rash, Pilot Wings 64, Wipeout 64, and Super Bomberman 64. The page also lists upcoming releases for the 64DD, Game Boy Advance, and Game Boy, alongside Nintendo hardware and peripherals like the Game Boy Adapter GB, Game Boy Advance itself, and the Wavebird controller for GameCube. GameCube software is also mentioned, with Resident Evil 0 listed as an upcoming title. This page presents 2 N64 game rankings from a reader poll. The first ranking is Readers Choose Anticipated New Games Top 20, which lists games that gamers are looking forward to. Number 1 is Mario Party 3, followed by Zelda no Densetsu DD version, a tentative title for a 64DD Zelda game, and Pokemon Stadium Gold and Silver in third place. Other notable games in this anticipated list include Perfect Dark, Custom Robo V2, Sin and Punishment, Successor of the Earth, Banjo-Tooie, Mega Man Legends, and Modern Great Strategy, Ultimate War. The second ranking is This Is Selling, N64 Software Top 10, which lists the best-selling N64 games. At number 1 is Mystery Dungeon, Furai no Siren 2, followed by Mario Tennis 64 and Mario Story, Paper Mario, in second and third place respectively. The list also features Super Smash Bros., Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards, GoldenEye 007, Power Pros 2000, Mario Party 2, WWF WrestleMania 2000, and Excitebike 64. The next page presents the results of reader surveys. Firstly, there are questions about the Space World event. The survey asks readers if they have been to Space World, and 79% say they have not. Another survey asks about the best time to hold Space World, with summer vacation being the top choice at 59%. Then, there are 3 top 10 rankings. The first is NSW2K Exhibition Software, Expected Titles. The top 3 are 1. Mario Kart Advance, 2. Mario Party 3, 3. Perfect Dark, for home. Other games listed include Custom Robo V2, Golden Sun, Animal Crossing, Dubutsu no Mori, Banjo-Kazooie's Great Adventure 2, and Donkey Kong 2001. The second ranking is Game Boy Rewritable Top 10. The top 3 are 1. Furai no Shiren GB, Getsurai Mura no Kaibutsu, Shiren the Wanderer GB, Monster of the Lunar Village. 2. Super Mario Bros. Deluxe. 3. Zelda no Densetsu, Yume o Miru Shima DX, The Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening DX. Other games listed include Balloon Fight GB and Pokemon Trading Card Game. The final ranking is Gohan no Tomo Top 10, Top 10 Rice Companions, which lists popular Japanese food items to eat with rice. This page is an advertisement for the Nintendo 64 game Pokemon Stadium 2, known in Japan as Pokemon Stadium Gold and Silver. It highlights that the game is compatible with Game Boy Pokemon titles from Red and Green through to the Crystal version. The ad promotes exciting 20th century Pokemon battles and features screenshots showcasing in-game battles. It shows Lugia and Ho prominently as key Pokemon from the Gold and Silver era. The info box details the game's title, publisher as Nintendo, a release date of December 14th, a price of 6,800 yen, the genre as Battle and Encyclopedia, player count from 14, and compatibility with the 64 GB pack. The text emphasizes the enjoyment of battling and discovering the strongest Pokemon from the 251 available. Pokemon Stadium 2 Japanese version features several Battle Cups. The Nintendo Cup, following official Pokemon League rules with level restrictions and bans on certain legendaries. The Little Cup, a level 5 competition for unevolved Pokemon hatched from eggs. The Ultra Cup, allowing any Pokemon. And the Challenge Cup, a format with secret rules. The game also includes a mystery gift function, enabling players to exchange gifts with Pokemon Gold and Silver on Game Boy Color via infrared communication. This allows for up to 5 daily exchanges. The feature includes a Friends and Even Days You Can't Meet option, expanding its functionality beyond direct interactions. The page includes screenshots and images showcasing battles and the mystery gift feature. This page highlights the game Pokemon Stadium 2 and asks, are you raising Pokemon to match the cup? The article showcases various Pokemon in battles, including Espeon, Kingdra, and Tyranitar, emphasizing strategic team building for different cups or challenges within the game. It mentions an exhibition match at Nintendo Space World, where skilled players demonstrated exciting battles using Pokemon with unexpected moves, drawing cheers from the crowd. The page encourages players to develop diverse movesets for their Pokemon to surprise opponents in battles with friends. Screenshots demonstrate in-game battles and Pokemon appearances, like Heracross using Horn Attack, and Onix, who is described as cute but having impressive power. The text also notes that even in the Little Cup, large Pokemon can appear under certain conditions, adding to the surprise and variety of battles. Mantine is shown as having comical movements and expressions. This page is all about Pokemon Stadium 2, showcasing the grand battles possible, with the 251 Pokemon available in the game. Screenshots highlight various Pokemon in action, like a Sentret battling a Sunkern, a Marill using Surf, a Rata using Quick Attack, a Cleffa using Psychic, a Bellossom using Petal Dance, and a Mantine using Waterfall. Other Pokemon pictured include Heracross, Lemadian, Espeon, Yanma, Squirtle, Tyrogue, Smoochum, and Rata. The page emphasizes the appeal of being able to use all Pokemon and poses the question of which Pokemon is the strongest in this massive battle arena. It reflects on past Pokemon games like Red, Green, Gold, and Silver, suggesting this game takes Pokemon battling to a new level with the expanded roster. This page highlights a selection of fun minigames for 1 to 4 players. It showcases 4 unique minigames featuring Pokemon characters, designed to be enjoyable and utilize the individual personalities of these creatures. The first minigame is Pichu's Electricity Generation Race, featuring the popular Pichu. The goal is to be the fastest at charging electricity by simultaneously using the directional buttons and the A and B buttons. Next is Hitmontop's Begoma, where players control Hitmontop and spin them like a top to knock opponents out of a ring. This minigame focuses on Hitmontop's foot techniques. The third game is Furret's Tsukitsuki Basket. Players control Furret and move through grass to shoot balls into their goal. Larger balls award more points in this game, where Furret's special skill seems to be Tsukitsuki. Finally, Chansey's Egg Big Operation features Chansey. Players must avoid Voltorb while collecting 100 falling eggs. Getting hit by Voltorb could lead to paralysis. Chansey makes an appearance in this egg collecting challenge. These minigames are likely from Pokemon Stadium 2, given the characters and style of the game presentation. The next page is about Pokemon Crystal version for the Game Boy Color. It announces that for the first time in the series, players can choose to play as a female protagonist. The page highlights how the game screen appearance changes when playing as a girl, showing differences in the player's backpack and the design of the Pokegear. It also mentions that even when playing as a girl, the game functions are the same. The page includes screenshots of the game menus and gameplay, featuring both male and female characters in different locations. The release date is stated as December 14th, with a price of 3,800 yen. Perfect Dark for the Nintendo 64 is a 3D action game supporting 1 to 4 players, requiring the Memory Expansion Pack. It offers 3 main game modes: Solo, Combat, and Co-op missions. Solo mission is the single-player campaign, following Agent Joanna Dark through missions with increasing difficulty levels, and a conspiracy-driven narrative. Combat mission is a versus mode for up to 4 players, offering customizable rules and arena stages, including computer-controlled simulants. Co-op mission allows 2 players to play through the solo missions cooperatively, with one playing as Joanna. The game emphasizes customizable settings, and includes gameplay screenshots and data logs showing player stats. This page is dedicated to mastering the basic operations for missions in a game that's system is similar to GoldenEye, but with easier-to-play changes. It breaks down the basic controls like using the 3D stick for movement and the Z trigger for firing, along with button functions. It then moves into applied operations, using button combinations for actions like weapon mode switching and crouching. The Carrington Association is introduced as a training area to practice weapon training, device training, holo training, and combat training. Weapon training is located on the first floor, device training on the second floor with computers, and holo training focuses on sidestep techniques. Combat training uses simulated battle scenarios. The Inforum section explains cheats and directs readers to page 114 of Dratex Hall for more details. The page encourages players to familiarize themselves with the controls and training before starting missions. The game featured appears to be Perfect Dark, given the Carrington Association reference and gameplay mechanics discussed. This page details the first mission, Datadyne Central, Defection, from the N64 game Perfect Dark. It acts as a mission briefing and walkthrough, outlining the objectives needed to complete the initial part of the game. The mission begins with Joanna Dark infiltrating Datadyne headquarters after an SOS call from scientists. The guide breaks down the mission into 5 key objectives. First, you need to disable the security camera management system by destroying 2 cameras on the rooftop and using the ECM main device. Next, you have to obtain a necklace key. This involves going downstairs from the rooftop, taking out some guards, and retrieving the key from a character named Cassandra. After that, the objective is to transmit an executive's file. This is done by taking the elevator to the second floor, overhearing a phone call, approaching the executive, logging into a computer, and using a data link to transmit the file, which also rewards you with a PC gun. Then, you must disable the emergency alert system. This involves going to the first floor via elevator, heading to the right side of the elevator hall, and triggering an explosion on a machine to take out enemies and disable the alert. Finally, the last objective shown on this page is to take the elevator down to the underground area, signifying progression to the next part of the mission. The next page is a guide for Mission 12 of Perfect Dark, titled Datadyne Underground Research Institute Investigation. It outlines 5 key objectives within the mission, presented as agent briefings. The first objective, Investigate Radioactive Material, tasks players with photographing radioactive material in a heavily guarded room using a CamSpy camera. The second objective, Start Cleaning Robots, involves changing the program of cleaning robots to navigate a laser-guarded passage. The third objective, Interrupt Scientists' Experiments, requires players to find 3 scientists conducting experiments and stop them. It's mentioned that one scientist might trigger an alarm, necessitating the player to manually stop the experiment via computer. The fourth objective, Acquire Items During Experimentation, instructs players to obtain 3 items: the K7 Avenger, Night Vision, and test shield. The night vision is in a glass case, and the test shield is located in a room to the left towards Dr. Carroll's location. The final objective, Help Dr. Carroll, details the need to rescue Dr. Carroll, who is trapped deeper within the facility. The guide advises using a data link to unlock doors and be cautious of guarding soldiers. It also mentions that on the Agent difficulty, there will be 2 unmanned machines, and on Perfect Agent difficulty, there will be 3 unmanned machines deployed from the ceiling, which must be destroyed with weapons like the Dragon once they are in a stationary position. Success in reaching the deepest part of the area completes the mission. Mission 13, Datadyne Central Extraction, tasks the player with protecting Dr. Carroll and escaping Datadyne headquarters. The mission walkthrough details 5 steps. First, enter the first elevator, using Night Eye to navigate the dark. Second, reactivate the second elevator by using a computer, while taking cover from attacking hovercopters. Third, destroy a hovercopter using an R launcher found on a lower floor. Accuracy is crucial. Fourth, defeat bodyguards using shotguns, utilizing the darkness and vent fans to your advantage. Finally, reach the helipad on the roof to complete the mission. This guide details Mission 2, Carrington Villa. Objectives in GoldenEye 007. Players must first rescue a decoy teammate, ideally using a sniper rifle. Nexted. Eliminate 8 rooftop snipers, again favoring a sniper rifle, or other weapons on Perfect difficulty. Capture enemy soldiers, instead of killing them with non-lethal attacks. Restore the wind power system by navigating the basement, activating the system, 2 computers, and 3 devices. Prevent hacking by defeating 2 hackers within a time limit, utilizing the tracker weapon. Finally, rescue Carrington from the basement, after obtaining a keycard dropped by the last enemy. Submachine guns are recommended for close-quarters combat during the rescue. This page focuses on the game Sin and Punishment, Successor of the Earth. It introduces the Ruffians, described as aggressive lifeforms originating from artificial food sources in Hokkaido, who are attacking the mainland. The page highlights the Salvation Group, a resistance force aiding people in the capital, and features 3 characters, Ati, Saki, and Aaron. Screenshots show gameplay featuring aerial combat against numerous enemies and encounters with large bosses. One screenshot mentions a Crab Seeker 26 enemy, another a Ruffians commander, and a large mechanical boss called Radar 16 GB. The text hints at a dramatic story where the player must consider who are allies and who are enemies in the battles to come. The game seems to emphasize intense action and engaging characters within a dramatic narrative. This page previews the Nintendo 64 title Sin and Punishment, Successor of the Earth. Developed by Nintendo and released on November 21st, priced at 5,800 yen in the action shooting genre. It is a 12-player game compatible with the Vibration Pack. The page highlights the character Kachua, who possesses special psychic abilities and holds a position close to the commander, currently involved in battles in Tokyo. The game overview describes it as an exhilarating shooting experience, where players use various weapons to defeat enemies, emphasizing the fun of controlling the character and shooting. The Armed Volunteer Force is introduced as an American-led international peacekeeping organization equipped with advanced weaponry, fighting against the Ruffian. It mentions that the higher ranks of this force are composed of young individuals with unique powers. The screenshots showcase action-packed shooting gameplay scenes. This page introduces Custom Robo V2 for the Nintendo 64. It details that the game's story is structured in 2 parts, starting with the Journey Story chapter. Players will begin by learning about the world of Custom Robo and progressing through the scenario. The page highlights obtaining the Ray MK2 robot, which will become the player's partner, and is described as a state-of-the-art custom robo that is cool and high performance. It also introduces characters named Genta and Taihei, who are described as a comical duo and the mad scientist combo. Screenshots show in-game scenes and character dialogues, illustrating the gameplay and story elements. The game is a robot action RPG, supports 1 to 4 players, and is compatible with the Vibration Pack. It was released by Nintendo on November 10th for 6,800 yen. This page introduces the Ray MK2 robot, which is described as the first robot players will get in what is likely the game Custom Robo. It showcases the robot with labeled parts such as gun, needle gun, bomb, wave bomb, pod, sideway pod F, leg, and wind jump leg. Screenshots demonstrate the gameplay, explaining how weapons and parts function. The page also introduces characters, including the twin commanders Tsurugi and Yaiba, and the robot doctor, who is conducting research on robots at the RoboStation. This page showcases Lieutenant Mix 2I with details on two robots, Javelin and Hawkman. The page highlights the Thunder Match and joining Takuma faction in the game. It mentions that the main character levels up through various experiences, and the Thunder Match is the climax. It features strong commanders and intense battles. For the Takuma faction, it states that only skilled commanders can join. The main character tries to join but is initially refused. However, they meet someone called Jiru in Dr. Robot's room who recognizes their ability, and they are given a special Takuma faction entrance exam. The page then details two robots, Javelin, Gun, Drill Gun, Pod, Sky Freeze Pod, Bomb, Delay Bomb, Sea Leg, Short Vernier Leg. The descriptions show gameplay scenarios, using the Delay Bomb C to launch enemies into the air, and using the Sky Freeze Pod to attack airborne enemies, and using the Drill Gun to attack downed opponents at close range. Hawkman, Gun, Multi-Vulcan Gun, Pod, Throwing Pod D Bomb, Wall Bomb, Leg, Long Vernier Leg. The descriptions show gameplay scenarios. Hawkman fighting from a distance, throwing Pod D's explosion lingering for a long time, using the Multi-Vulcan Gun to hit enemies from above, and create vertical explosions to hit enemies. The page essentially provides gameplay tips and descriptions of robot loadouts and tactics for Lieutenant Mix 2Is. This page is all about showcasing additional robots and new weapons for the game Custom Robo, which was exclusive to Japan on the N64. It features 8 robots: Ballot, Heptan, Gomuzu, Tiger Roar, Planeta, Wolfen, Wilson, and Annie. The page also introduces 2 new weapon types. First, the Stardust Gun, described as firing small bullets that spread horizontally and are effective for stopping enemy movement, allowing for follow-up attacks with pods or bombs. The second weapon is the Freeze Bomb, a bomb designed to temporarily halt an opponent's movement, creating an opportunity to strike after predicting their movement patterns. This page is all about Mario Party 3 on the Nintendo 64. It's previewing the game and highlights some of the new features. One of the main goals is to collect 7 stamps to become a superstar. There are 2 main modes featured: Party Mode, which is the familiar Mario Party gameplay for 14 players, with characters like Mario, Luigi, Peach, Wario, Yoshi, and Donkey Kong, plus some others. Then there's a new Dual Map mode, designed for 2 players, where you battle to reduce your opponent's health to 0. Finally, there's a Story Mode, which is also new for this game, where you collect 7 stamps to become a superstar. The page also touches on using Otasuke characters in dual mode, which seem to have different abilities that add strategy to battles. This page is introducing the Haihe Lake map from Mario Party. The map has a cold and icy theme, and the text mentions that the ice can break, which can lead to trouble. The page highlights gameplay features like the familiar blue coin squares, and the danger of the ice cracking and transporting players to different locations. Characters like Mario, Peach, Yoshi, and Wario are shown playing on this map. It also mentions that the dual map for this stage is called Gate-kun, where minigame battles occur when players encounter each other, and in duels, characters who are chasing can initiate attacks. Collecting coins is highlighted as important, and the use of support characters is also mentioned. The next page is about the Gurgle Forest stage from Mario Party. It introduces this stage as being filled with green and wonders what kind of gimmicks it holds. Screenshots show the start screen of Gurgle Forest, a dangerous roulette minigame, and original events triggered by landing on spaces. The page highlights the abundance of spaces on this map and the excitement of waiting for your turn. It also mentions the possibility of getting a Millennium Star and emphasizes the importance of winning minigames. The page then details the dual map within Gurgle Forest, named Yajirushi-kun. It explains that this dual map has branching routes, adding strategic depth to gameplay. The main objective in duels is to reduce the opponent's health to 0 using various tactics, and choosing the right character is emphasized as crucial. The next page showcases a selection of minigames featured in Mario Party. It highlights that there are 70 types of minigames in total, designed for 2 to 4 players, offering a variety of gameplay experiences. The page introduces 8 different minigames with descriptions and screenshots. The first minigame is Tatataki, Mini Koopa, Pounding, Mini Koopa. In this game, players use hammers to pound Mini Koopas, Mini Koopa Troopas, that emerge from 4 locations. Next is Harapeko Puku Puku, Hungry Puku Puku. This minigame involves escaping from a Puku Puku, Cheep Cheep, that chases after players in the water. Nearpin Patari, Nearpin Perfect, is a golf minigame where players aim to get as close to the hole as possible with their golf shots. Coin Lake involves players operating rafts and collecting coins that fall from above. Boburu no Hyojin, Boburu's Target, requires players to adjust hoses and shoot water at Boburu, Bobomb, targets. Guru Guru Killer Attack, Spinning Killer Attack, is a minigame where 3 players ride on a platform and must avoid being hit by killers, bullet bills. Doko Kokurinbo, where Hide-and-Seek is a hide-and-seek minigame where players hide amongst 4 sets of objects. Finally, Terrasite Searchlight, Shine Searchlight, is a minigame where 3 players use searchlights to find a player who is hiding in the water. This page is about Banjo-Kazooie 2 for the Nintendo 64, which is known as Banjo-Tooie in English. It's presented as an action game and is highlighted as being a fun and exciting experience similar to Mario 64, but with even more depth. The article mentions that this sequel builds upon the previous game with enhanced features and introduces 4-player gameplay. The screenshots showcase various aspects of the game, including gameplay scenarios, characters like Gruntilda and her sisters, and what appears to be mini-games and puzzle elements. The page seems to be previewing the game and emphasizing its new additions and improvements. The next page showcases the game Banjo-Tooie. It highlights the enhanced graphics and new gameplay elements. The villain is still the Wicked Witch Gruntilda, and the adventure involves collecting musical notes just like in the first game. New features include being able to play as Mumbo Jumbo, Banjo transforming into different objects, and a variety of minigames for 2 to 4 players, including cart-based battle modes. Screenshots display diverse environments like ruins, lava levels, underwater areas with giant fish, and even modern-looking stages. The page also mentions new enemies like pterodactyls and giant sea urchins, and actions like the woodpecker attack and other solo moves. This page showcases the Nintendo 64 game Dance Dance Revolution Disney Dancing Museum. It highlights that the popular Dance Dance Revolution series is making its debut on the N64 console, featuring everyone's favorite Disney characters. The game was released on November 30th and cost 7,800 yen. It is described as a dance and musical instrument performance simulation game. The page emphasizes that players can enjoy dancing to Disney music with familiar characters. It shows screenshots of gameplay where players follow arrow prompts to dance, and mentions a dedicated Disney-themed controller that was released on the same day for 5,800 yen. The page also points out that you can select music tracks and enjoy playing with 2 players. This page is about the N64 game Dance Dance Revolution Disney Dancing Museum, a rhythm game where you can dance with Disney characters. It highlights 3 game modes: a single-player dance mode, a 2-player dance mode, and a session mode. Session mode is described as unique to the N64 version, offering dance and instrument parts, where 2 players can cooperate, one controlling the dance moves, and the other the instruments. The page showcases screenshots of gameplay featuring Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, and Donald Duck dancing to arrow prompts. It lists some of the songs available in the game, including Mickey Mouse March, Electrical Parade, and It's a Small World, and notes that some songs have vocals. The page also mentions the Disney characters featured in the game, such as Mickey and Minnie Mouse, Donald and Daisy Duck, Pluto, Goofy, Chip and Dale, Huey, Dewey and Louie, Grandma Duck, Scrooge McDuck, Horace, and Clarabelle. It emphasizes that you can dance with these characters to music tailored to them. This page introduces Rockman EXE, also known internationally as Mega Man Battle Network, for the Game Boy Advance. It highlights the game's setting in a future 200X era, where networks are deeply integrated into society, and personal devices called pets are common. The story revolves around network crimes and virus busting in the cyber world. The page showcases screenshots depicting various aspects of the game, including the opening scene, dialogues between characters, and virus battles. It explains that the protagonist, Neto, gets involved in network crime incidents. The game features Net Navis, which are programs residing within PETs, and Rockman is Neto's Navi, The page mentions virus busting as a core gameplay element. The information panel details that Rockman EXE is an action game for 1 to 4 players, published by Capcom, and expected to be released in March 2001. It also mentions compatibility with GBA communication cables and mobile system GB. The page further explains key terms like PET, personal terminal, as a personal information device, and NetNavi as a navigational character within the PET, emphasizing that Rockman is a NetNavi with personality who is a friend to Netto. This page showcases a game feature titled Heat Blast Open Range, Cause Unknown of Multiple Fires Incident, which details a crisis in Heatwave Town where microwave ovens are inexplicably catching fire. The story follows Heat Blast investigating these strange incidents, suspecting virus activity. The screenshots depict gameplay where Heat Blast and Megaman.exe navigate the digital world inside a microwave oven, battling virus enemies like Metower. Players are shown selecting chips, a key gameplay mechanic, to combat viruses and progress. The narrative suggests that these virus attacks are the cause of the microwave malfunctions, and it's up to the player to solve the mystery. The game world appears to be a network environment within appliances. The page emphasizes virus battles and network exploration as core gameplay elements. The next page focuses on the Nintendo 64 game, Rockman-Hagain no Bukenshin, known as Mega Man Legends outside of Japan. It is an action RPG set in a far future world where players control Rock, a digger, exploring ancient ruins. The preview mentions that Rock is on a journey with Roll Casket to find a great legacy, a clue to their parents' whereabouts. The page highlights that this N64 version is improved by 120% compared to the PlayStation version. It details enhanced visuals, including smoother polygons and improved sound. Voice actors like Mayumi Izuka for Roll and Koichi Yamadera are mentioned as contributing to the complete voice acting in the game. Screenshots showcase various gameplay aspects, including exploring town areas, interacting with characters like the mayor, encountering the Bad Kids trio, and exploring ruins filled with dangers. One screenshot emphasizes weapon customization and strengthening parts. The game's free-roaming RPG genre is noted, and the game is slated for release on November 22nd, with a price of 6,800 yen. It's a single-player game and supports the Rumble Pack. The next page showcases an intense aerial battle in Mega Man Legends 2. The article highlights a confrontation between Rock and the Bone Brothers, specifically Diesel and Tron. Roll is also featured piloting the Flutter airship. Screenshots depict Rock battling waves of Drosh fighter planes launched from the Bone Brothers' gigantic airship, the Genselshaft. The text describes the enemy attack patterns, including missile attacks and sudden aerial assaults, emphasizing the challenging nature of this airborne encounter against the persistent Bone family. The classic command-based adventure game, Metal Slader Glory, originally released on the Famicom in 1991, is being revived as a Super Famicom cartridge. This rewrite version features enhanced graphics and new gameplay systems, particularly for battles, making it more accessible to new players. The story follows high school student Azusa and his friend Alina, who become involved with a heavily armored military Metal Slider Glory after Azusa purchases it. A limited edition is also available, with the SF memory cassette Metal Slider Glory data available for rewriting at Lawson stores. Pre-orders are open until October 31st via Loppy terminals at Lawson stores, with a release date of December 1, 2000. The game costs 5,780 yen, excluding tax, and includes a special postcard. It is a single-player adventure game. This page introduces 2 games for the Game Boy Advance. The first game is a Doraemon action title, currently under the provisional title Doraemon GB Advance, developed by Epoch. It features Doraemon and his friends in a new adventure, with familiar characters like Nobita and Shizuka, and promises TV anime-style presentation and voice acting. A key feature is the Doki Doki mode, a 4-player battle mode where each player has their own screen. The second game is Winning Post for Game Boy Advance from Koei, a horse racing simulation game from the popular Winning Post series. It aims to recreate realistic horse racing on the GBA, focusing on training and breeding horses to win G1 races. The game boasts detailed graphics and TV broadcast-style camera angles, and includes 16 horse races with 26 real-life jockeys. The gameplay is designed to be fast-paced and suited for handheld play. The next page features an interview with Akio Yasuda, Representative Director, and Keiichi Okawara, Chief Programmer of Clever Trick, discussing their N64 game Echo Delta. This real-time strategy title, slated for a December release and priced at 5,800 yen, was inspired by Marine Girl and aims to deliver deep gameplay. They mention drawing inspiration from Windwalker Siren and AO Pioneer, wanting to create a strategic experience that is easy to pick up but has significant depth. The game's design focuses on sound and the underwater setting, with each play offering a different experience due to changing maps and enemy placements. They aimed for a concise 18-minute playtime, emphasizing strategic depth and replayability rather than lengthy sessions. The next page is all about the N64 game Eco Delta, a deep-sea exploration simulation game where you pilot a special submarine scout. The page highlights key gameplay aspects, like exploring the deep sea, activating underwater production plants, and preparing defensive gunner facilities against enemies. There's a fever mode, where you can get unlimited resources and missions where you need to rescue distress ships within a time limit. The page emphasizes the unique fun of two-player mode, explaining how cooperation is key, as energy and time are shared resources, requiring players to strategize together for power-ups and resource management, which makes it a different experience from single-player. Developers mention that the N64 was chosen as the platform to realize their game concept and ideas, with interviews from Yasuda and Okawara discussing the game's development. The page also features screenshots showing in-game action, including activating plants, gunner facilities, fever mode, and distress ship rescue scenarios. There's also a section about the game being called Solitaire internally during development. This page previews the Nintendo 64 strategy game Gendai Daisen Ryaku, Ultimate War, which translates to Modern Great Strategy, Ultimate War. It highlights the game's scenario mode, emphasizing how player choices and battle outcomes branch the storyline and map progression. The game's narrative is set in a world where the Soviet Union did not collapse in the 1980s and depicts a conflict where the player, as a U.S. Army commander, must defend Japan from a Soviet invasion. The page also details unit growth, explaining that units gain experience through battles, improving their levels from E up to A, emphasizing the importance of unit management and strategic battles. Screenshots show in-game maps, unit selection screens, and gameplay interfaces, showcasing the game's strategic depth and tactical elements. This page showcases a sticker sheet featuring various Nintendo 64 and Game Boy titles. The top section highlights Banjo-Kazooie characters in a cheerful adventure setting. Below that, there's a collection of characters from Mario Tennis GB, including Mario, Peach, Luigi, and Wario, all ready for a match. There's also a section featuring characters described as Mysterious Zona. Further down, you can see badge stickers from the 4th Pokemon League Nintendo Cup 2000. The page also prominently features sections for Perfect Dark, with screenshots of Joanna Dark and the game logo, Custom Robo V2 showcasing the box art and in-game robots, and mentions Sin and Punishment and Viewpoint 2064. These titles are suggested for stickers to place on your game cassette cases. This page from the December 2000 issue, celebrating its 50th issue and 4th anniversary, features a reader Q&A section and reader submissions. One question discusses the magazine's direction beyond just N64, as GBA and GameCube are becoming prominent, suggesting names like GB Dream or Cube Dream. Another question asks about the best game of the 20th century, with the answer being Ocarina of Time, although Zelda, Mario Kart, Power Pro, and Dr. Mario are also mentioned as favorites. There's a humorous story about playing Mario Tennis with grandparents involving Waluigi. Another question asks what comes to mind with the color green, with answers like grass, lettuce, cabbage, tea, Yoshi, and Midranger. The possibility of Mother 3 and 2i, Tentai Majo 3, being released is discussed, noting the cancellation of Mother 3, but hoping for a GBA revival. The Asbestos Special Part 2 section showcases reader submissions with illustrations and comments, many referencing Game Boy, GB. Other reader submissions include comments about the GameCube being good, requests for card-related content for the 50th issue, celebrations of the 50th issue itself, reports about visiting Space World, expressions of hot feelings, excitement about Mario Tennis GB, eye exam experiences, mentions of a sexy Ai-chan, desires for Mother 3 on GameCube, regrets about missed meetings, and something being described as very interesting. This page of GameSoft Fan Club 2 is all about fan feedback for Nintendo games, specifically Smash Bros., Star Fox 64, and the upcoming Game Boy Color Zelda titles. For Smash Bros, it's clear fans are eager for a sequel and are sending in tons of postcards with character suggestions. Peach, Samus, Link, and Ness are some of the requested characters. Star Fox 64 is also hugely popular, with fans excited about the series. There's talk about the next Fox game potentially being a different genre, and readers are asked for their predictions. The Zelda section covers the Game Boy Color Zelda games, which are officially titled The Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Seasons, and Oracle of Ages. Their release has been pushed back to January. Fans are also commenting on Zelda artwork and design, requesting more illustrations of Princess Zelda. It's also mentioned that the Mario section is taking a break this month, but there are new Mario developments in the works. This page covers various fan club, FC, updates, and game-related news. Anticipation is high for the GBA Fire Emblem, discussed in the Fighter Emblem FC section, alongside the disappointment over the N64 cancellation. Pokemon FC previews the upcoming releases of Pokemon Crystal for GBC and Pokemon Stadium for N64, highlighting the addition of a female protagonist in Crystal and their connection. Mother Supporters Committee expresses disappointment regarding cancellation, but hopes for a GBA release of older titles. The Outrun Executive Committee asks for reader feedback on GBA screenshots. The GameCube Executive Committee focuses on predicting GameCube launch titles, release dates, and prices, with guidelines for predictions. Finally, 2FC Postcards encourages readers to submit their opinions via mail. This page is a manga comic strip titled Dream Drunker Gaiden. The comic depicts a group of characters who find themselves underwater and must escape. One character, named Light, admits they have never swam before. Another character, resembling Bowser from the Mario series, offers to give Light special training when they reach the sea. The comic progresses with characters encountering monsters and a brainwashing machine, highlighting humorous dialogue and action sequences, with one character described as having cockroach-like vitality. The style suggests it is a light-hearted, game-inspired manga, possibly featured in the magazine. This page is a manga comic strip featuring characters resembling Bowser and Link. Bowser is telling Link to go and then forces a mask onto another character. The mask transforms the character into a monster, and Bowser declares him useful. Bowser then suggests they go to the sea, and dismisses the monster character as a necessary sacrifice in battle. The text at the bottom of the page mentions this comic is a side story called DD Gaiden, which is concluding for now, as monthly serialization is difficult. The author found this month's one-shot story about Shiren to be easier to create, and hopes to do original stories in the future, putting the Gaiden characters on hiatus. The mention of Shiren likely refers to the Mystery Dungeon, Shiren the Wanderer series. This page is a Dream Runner comic strip, this month featuring Mystery Dungeon, Shiren the Wanderer 2. The comic depicts Bowser-like characters being informed of attacking demons and deciding to build a castle. After constructing the castle and installing cannons, they surprisingly turn the cannons on their own castle and destroy it. Following the destruction, they decide they can now go to a dungeon, implying the castle was a deliberate but flawed step in their dungeon-going plans. The final panel indicates their castle-building strategy was incorrect for dungeon exploration. This page presents a manga strip with a humorous take on game mechanics, featuring a character with the ability Nigiri Henka, which comically transforms items into rice balls. The explanation box details Nigiri Henka as a power that turns people's items into onigiri, mentioning characters named Koiru and Kazeto as examples. The manga continues, with the character being encouraged to aim for Sushi Henka, a more ambitious transformation. A text section discusses the addictive nature of a game, described as siren poisoning, highlighting its strategic battles and depth. The page also references upcoming manga content and reader submissions, with examples of reader artwork on the side and a small advertisement for Mario ADV. The Nigiri Henka concept and humorous tone are likely related to the game Animal Crossing, originally released in Japan for the N64 as Dobutsu no Mori, possibly referencing its item collection or quirky gameplay. This magazine features a Hoboroku Copy Dojo, a section dedicated to user-submitted creative writing. This month's theme focuses on expressing honest feelings. Two submission sections, Siren and Waluigi, present short, humorous phrases from readers. This month's Copy Dojo highlights a detailed Siren submission and encourages further submissions, while cautioning against outdated slang. The Illustration and Hitokoto Copy section uses a Mario illustration with the phrase, "This is not the end. I'll continue doing it all the time," and highlights the surprising range of reader submissions, with some phrases deemed NG words. Additionally, a GB Advance Copy Dojo teaches readers how to write effective copy for the Game Boy Advance, with the next theme being Nintendo Female Characters, featuring Daisy as an acceptable subject. The page concludes with guidelines for submitting illustrated postcards and copy entries via mail and email. This page is a strategy guide for the Nintendo 64 game Mystery Dungeon. Shiren the Wanderer 2, known in Japan as Furai no Shiren 2, Oni Shurai, Shirenjo. The page features character artwork and highlights a comprehensive strategy guide covering the Shiren Mountain Trail intermediate stages up to the 15th floor of Oni Island, starting on page 56. It also advertises an interview with Chunsoft developers Koichi Nakamura and Shinichiro Tomi on page 66, and information about Mystery Dungeon, Shiren the Wanderer GB2, Desert Devil Castle on page 70. The game is a dungeon RPG for one player, supporting the controller pack, and was already on sale for 6,800 yen at the time of this magazine. This guide covers the mid to late game strategy for Shiren the Wanderer, focusing on Shootin' Mountain Trail and Oni Island. It advises using Shootin' Mountain Trail materials to build your castle, accessible upon reaching Oni Island. Random shops with valuable items appear in dungeons beyond Shootin' Mountain Trail, but stealing from shopkeepers turns you into a thief. Oni Island introduces dogu items with diverse effects, like teleporting, strengthening enemies, or even turning them into rice balls. The guide encourages strategic dogu use and provides examples of different types. It also explains transformation pots, which alter items, and surprise pots, containing unknown items. Finally, it describes the Golden Room, a rare treasure room found in dungeons after the Upper Shootin' Mountain Trail, located using musical clues from a pickaxe or a tunnel staff. The next page features a monster list of enemies appearing up to the 15th floor of Onigashima, likely from an N64 role-playing game. The page is structured like a bestiary, detailing each monster with its name, level, HP, experience points, attack power, defense, and a short description of their abilities or characteristics. Many of the monsters are described as only using normal attacks, while others have unique abilities, such as summoning traps, throwing items, or having special attacks. The list is presented in a table format with monster images and stat blocks for each entry. The next page provides item data for the game Shiren the Wanderer 2, Onigashima Kozo. It lists various items categorized as weapons, shields, rods, projectiles, bracelets, scrolls, jars, grasses, and rice balls that appear up to the 15th floor of Onigashima. For each item, details are given including its name, features, attack power, number of seals, type of seal, selling price, and purchase price. A screenshot of the game interface is shown, displaying character stats and inventory with items such as Dragon Killer plus 98 and Spark Sword 1. The page serves as a guide to the items players can encounter within the early levels of the game, offering a detailed breakdown of their properties and values. The intermediate section of Mount Shutendao in Shiren the Wanderer 2 becomes significantly more challenging. Players should gather items from Midbelly Village before proceeding. Floors 8 to 13 feature increasingly difficult dungeons. Floor 8, the Wandering Stone Cave, introduces tough enemies like Kodomo Senjin. Floors 9 and 10, the Great Gorge, are shuffle dungeons, where Higitsuji Shinkan and Tiger Uho appear. Traps and ranged attacks are recommended. Floors 11 and 12, the Phantom Deep Mountain, are shuffle dungeons emphasizing shield usage and the threat of shield loss. Kengo enemies are particularly dangerous. Floor 13, the Source Stream Demon Cave, is extremely hazardous, filled with traps and enemies like Amenja, who attacks twice and weakens attack power. Items can be burned by Flames of Disaster scrolls. This page is a strategy guide for the game Shiren the Wanderer 2, Oni Invasion, Shiren Castle. It focuses on the Shootin' Mountain Road, upper-level area of the game, specifically for navigating from Natane Village to the Midbelly Village. The guide details dungeon levels from 12F, Takiho Deep Area, to 78F, Dark Night Sky Cave, each with associated tips and enemy monsters. For levels 12F, the guide suggests searching all items as monsters are weak, and lists monsters like Mamoru, Big Mamoru, and Chintara. Levels 34F, the Mountain Cave, mentions familiar monsters, and advises collecting items, leveling up to at least level 6, and being wary of being tripped by Maruhiro. Monsters listed include Pikotan, Nigiri Apprentice, Maruhiro, Shiroyan, and Sweet Kimal. Levels 56F, Hizume Rock Wall, focuses on using indirect attacks against boyas, and being careful of Kodomo soldiers and Oyaji soldiers leveling up. Monsters are Shiroyan, Sweet Kimal, Boya, and Nusutodo. Finally, level 78F, the Dark Knight Sky Cave, highlights the powerful Tiger Wolf and Kid soldiers, emphasizing traps and monster combinations as dangerous, particularly Kid Soldier war chariots, and suggests using fire pillars and fire scrolls. Monsters include Nusutodo, Tiger Wolf, Kid Soldier war chariots, and Warukichi. The page also includes gameplay screenshots demonstrating combat scenarios and item information, providing players with visual aids and strategic advice for progressing through the Shuten Mountain Road in Shiren the Wanderer 2. The Shuten Mountain Path Advanced Level Walkthrough covers floors 9 to 15 of an N64 dungeon crawler. Floor 9, the Cliffwind Cave, is a random dungeon requiring strong equipment and item synthesis. Floors 10 and 11, the Ancient City Ruins, are shuffle dungeons, recommending hit-and-run tactics against tough monsters like ironheads and golems. Floor 12, the Source Spring Demon Cave, is a standard dungeon with a Menges. Floors 13 and 14, Silver Spirit Peak, are shuffle dungeons with difficult monster lineups and traps, advocating for liberal item use and potential retreats. Finally, Floor 15 is the Queen's Spider's Nest, the boss floor. The strategy is to use fire damage, avoid close combat, and defeat the Yoroi Gumo before battling the Queen Spider. This page is about preparing for the Onigashima stage in the N64 game Mystery Dungeon, Shiren the Wanderer 2, Oni Invasion, Shiren Castle, released only in Japan. It offers 5 key points for players to consider before heading to Onigashima. Firstly, it highlights the item limit of 7 that can be carried to Onigashima. Players are advised to store excess items in the warehouse, which can hold up to 42 items. Secondly, the guide emphasizes equipping Asuka, a companion character, with strong weapons, shields, and bracelets to aid in battles. Thirdly, it addresses the issue of unidentified items commonly found in Natane Village and beyond, suggesting players prepare identification scrolls and other identification items. Fourthly, it recommends using a controller pack for backing up save data, especially if players are concerned about running out of handheld items. Finally, the guide advises players to strengthen their swords and shields to around plus 20 before tackling Onigashima, and to utilize special effects on equipment. It recommends Katana series weapons and Okabudo no Tate shields. The page also promotes mastering item synthesis using Mazzelin, providing a table of synthesis items and their effects, like Dragon Grass for fire property and Happiness Grass for happiness property, and suggests synthesizing Dragon Grass and Happiness Grass for enhanced equipment. It mentions Shuten Mountain Floors 911 as a good location for synthesis, and notes that after castle completion, the mountaintop is easier to access due to the absence of boss monsters. The Onigashima Dungeon, Floors 1 to 12. In Mystery Dungeon, Shiren the Wanderer 2 is a challenging area. Floors 1 and 2 are dark, confusing, and feature weak enemies, but thorough item collection is essential. Floors 3 and 4 introduce traps. Floors 5 and 6 feature unique Onigashima monsters and water terrain. Floors 7 and 8 introduce Gaizu's magic, requiring poison resistance and quick combat. Floors 9 and 10 feature weapon-weakening enemies, but Mr. Hiri drops helpful items. Floors 11 and 12 contain strong monsters, including Kengo, and mark the final section of the dungeon. Good item acquisition from the shops is recommended before attempting these floors. The next page highlights the dungeons from floors 13 to 15 of Onigashima, continuing the dungeon exploration. Floors 13 and 14 feature enemies like Yagi God Officer, Kengu, Shukanmaru, Tepao Dragon, Himekappa, and Chibioni. On floor 15, you will encounter Oyaji Tank, Devil Officer, Yoroigmo, Amenja, Gatsugoni, Pakarepkina, Mazamam, and Kunekune Honey. The page then delves into 2 types of dungeons: Monster Kingdom and Trap Dungeon. In the Monster Kingdom dungeon, players can capture monsters using a monster pot. This allows monsters to become allies and be taken to a Monster Kingdom. The page mentions that the monster pot is obtainable in this hidden dungeon, and allows players to collect over 150 types of monsters. The Trap Dungeon section focuses on using traps strategically. It explains that traps can be picked up and placed, and while they have less effect on Earth attribute enemies, They can damage monsters and provide experience points. The gameplay involves luring monsters onto traps to defeat them, offering a different style of play compared to previous dungeons. This dungeon introduces the mechanic of using traps to defeat monsters, emphasizing strategic placement over direct combat. The game featured on this page is likely Mystery Dungeon, Shiren the Wanderer 2, Oni Invasion, Shiren Castle, a Japan-exclusive title. This page is all about player stories of unfortunate events while playing Shiren the Wanderer 2. The page is titled, "This is Shiren Path, Unhappiness Boasting Tournament Held." It explains that the core of the Shiren Path is about overcoming hardships in the game, even when it gets frustrating. One player's story is titled, "Selling My Shield," where they describe encountering a tough swordsman enemy and losing their shield. Frustrated, they ended up selling their shield to a merchant in the dungeon. Another story, "My Weapon Burned," recounts a player trying to synthesize their weapon with a Mazaltan monster, but accidentally burned their katana plus 17 when using a fire herb to defeat the monster. The last anecdote, Keepsake Pot, tells of a player who was having a good run, strengthening their weapon to plus 27, but then fell into a pitfall on the 9th floor of Rakasui Mountain. They lost their valuable keepsake pot, and were then defeated by Nigiri Henke enemies, who turned them into an onigiri, rice ball, with their attack, lamenting the loss of their items. Finally, there is a section in a blue box calling for readers to submit their own unhappiness boasting stories related to Shiren the Wanderer 2. They are invited to send in their stories via postcard, letter, fax, or email to receive a commemorative gift if their story is selected. The next page features an interview about Shiren the Wanderer 2. The interviewees are Nakamura Hikaru, the representative director of Chunsoft, and Tomi Shinichiro, the game producer at Chunsoft. The interview discusses user reactions a month after release, with players enjoying the difficulty and depth of the game. It mentions that the game has relief measures to help players, suggesting it might be challenging but not frustratingly so. They talk about items and monsters, implying these are key aspects being discussed. Screenshots show the game interface, with typical dungeon crawler elements like health bars, inventory, and a map. It seems like a classic roguelike dungeon RPG. The interview touches upon the target audience being a wide range, from children to adults, but particularly those who enjoyed the original Shiren the Wanderer or Torneko games. This page features an interview titled, Furai's Interview 2, focusing on ideas from the Traveling Merchant and Bali Island stories in game design, specifically for Shiren the Wanderer 2. The developers are discussing how they create annoying monsters and traps to challenge players. They mention the Tiger UHO monster, which throws items and uses siren attacks, emphasizing the importance of being unpredictable in monster behavior to make the game enjoyable. The interview highlights their idea generation process, stating that ideas for the Traveling Merchant come from team members, and they refine them through discussion to create unexpected gameplay situations. They touch upon the knowledge stick item, which can be seemingly useless, but offer surprising benefits in certain scenarios. The Bali Island story is mentioned as a source of inspiration for these ideas. The developers aim for player discovery and the sense of accomplishment when overcoming challenges. Giving an example of feeling lucky after defeating a tough monster through clever strategy, they emphasize making games where unexpected and interesting events can occur for the player. This text summarizes gameplay strategies and item combinations for Mystery Dungeon, Shiren the Wanderer 2, Oni Invasion, Shiren Castle, a Japan-exclusive N64 game. The page explores the game's layered systems, emphasizing item combinations, like herbs and seeds, for strategic advantage, particularly referencing Mazellan's different combinations. The game's difficulty is highlighted, with references to numerous deaths and plays, suggesting persistence is crucial. A screenshot showcases combat and suggests item combinations like a Great Round Sword with a Paralysis Herb. Further sections detail clearing Oni Island up to the 15th floor, discussing the game's narrative alongside challenging gameplay. The final section underscores the game's core mechanics, player imagination, and realization of ideas, acknowledging challenges in development for a younger audience. This page is from a magazine and features an interview titled, Furai's Interview 2. The interview discusses the game, Mystery Dungeon, Shiren the Wanderer 2, Oni Invasion, Shiren Castle, referred to as Shiren 2, and also mentions Mystery Dungeon, Shiren the Wanderer GB2. The interview highlights aspects of game design, focusing on elements like the engaging gameplay loop, the monster naming committee, and the challenges of development. The The Monster Naming Committee section talks about how the monster names are decided. Character designer Mr. Nagatani provides illustrations, and names are then tentatively assigned. The interviewees mention involving the staff in the naming process and using a monster committee to finalize names, emphasizing that they wanted to make sure the names were appropriate and fun. The main interview covers topics like the length of development time, the desire to create a game that players can enjoy repeatedly, and the difficulty level. There's discussion around the initial concept of making an easier dungeon after completing the main story, but eventually deciding against it. The interview also touches upon the visual and graphical improvements in Shiren 2 compared to previous titles, and the inclusion of new elements in the Game Boy Color version. Shiren the Wanderer GB2. Screenshots show in-game scenes from Shiren 2, including gameplay with characters and monsters, and UI elements like health bars and item information. There is also a portrait of one of the interviewees, possibly Mr. Nakamura, who is mentioned throughout the text. This page is a preview for the Game Boy game Fushigi no Dungeon, Furai no Shiren, GB2, Sabaku no Majo, which translates to Mystery Dungeon, Shiren the Wanderer, GB2, The Desert Castle. This dungeon RPG is set 10 years after the original Fushigi no Dungeon, Furai no Shiren game. The article details the harsh desert environment in the game, where strong winds and sandstorms are prevalent. The main character, Shiren, and his companion Koppa, are navigating this dangerous desert towards a large castle looming in the distance. The text describes the castle as a desert castle and hints at a grand adventure awaiting them. The page introduces key characters: Shiren the Wanderer, a young traveler who got lost in the desert, and Ogen, described as a strong-willed woman. It also shows the character Kenju, who was once a respected leader but is now acting strangely, hoarding large amounts of money. Finally, there's Pukeji, who claims to be Shiren's younger brother and is also after the castle's treasure. Screenshots showcase gameplay in dungeons with familiar Mystery Dungeon-style graphics, including battles against enemies like cell armor. Another screenshot shows a town scene, hinting at social interactions and story elements in the game. The European Computer Trade Show, ECTS, a major gaming event in the UK, similar to E3, showcased products to distributors for the Christmas season. Nintendo, SCE, and Konami had prominent booths, with the Game Boy Advance drawing considerable attention and the GameCube being previewed to the press. Nintendo's booth emphasized Pokémon Pikachu, which had sold 1 million copies in Europe within 6 days. The Game Boy Advance version of Pokémon Gold and Silver was planned for a July 2001 release. Interviews with industry figures, including Nintendo's Jim Merrick, were conducted. The report highlighted Europe's growing game development potential, drawing parallels to Japan, and concluded by discussing console performance and cross-cultural game releases, mentioning Perfect Dark. This page is from the Death Immortals Teaching section of the magazine and is titled GameCube Disc Research. It delves into a question about why the GameCube uses 8 cm DVDs. The discussion covers the benefits of the smaller disc size, like portability, making it easier to carry around, and fitting into handheld game consoles. It also touches on potential drawbacks, such as storage capacity limitations at around 1.5 gigabytes, and copy protection concerns. The article mentions that this size might be related to Matsushita's Panasonic technology and compatibility with DVD players, and also speculates on potential issues with copy protection. There's also a side column titled, This Month's Death Immortal Returns, where the writer shares a personal anecdote about buying a DVD player online and getting change back from 20,000 yen. The story continues with a restaurant experience where they tried San Pellegrino soda and disliked it, eventually mixing it with Calpis soda to make it more palatable, relating it to Japanese taste preferences. Finally, there's a brief, slightly strange comment about Peppercun's skin color being unsettling, and noticing details like pores and hair when looking closely, suggesting it might be a mascot or character featured in the magazine. This page presents reader impressions of various Nintendo 64 games. Hamidashi Impressions features 2 entries. One, from Fukuoka Prefecture, focuses on The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask, highlighting the emotional impact of the game, particularly the Anju and Kafei storyline, and Cremia and Romani's conversation. The second impression, from Saitama Prefecture, is on Pokemon Puzzle League, praising its addictive puzzle gameplay. The Dream Impression section reviews 1080 Degrees Snowboarding, written by a reader from Aichi Prefecture. The reviewer raves about the game's realistic graphics, especially the lighting, reflections, and sensation of snowboarding. They commend its immersion, depth in aspects like snow quality and board feel, and recommend it highly. A postscript mentions an observation about a character in Pokemon Puzzle League. This page is the N64 forum from the Reader's Letters section. The page features letters discussing news and opinions related to Nintendo and N64 games. One letter discusses two news items. Good news being Fire Emblem appearing on the Game Boy Advance, and bad news being the cancellation of Mother 3. The writer mentions seeing a small picture of Fire Emblem at Space World and speculating about Shuzu Kaga involvement after leaving Nintendo. Another letter, titled Goodbye Mother, expresses disappointment about the cancellation of Mother 3 and questions if it will ever be revived. The writer states they believed Mother 3 would be a masterpiece and blames the cancellation on the development tools for the N64, suggesting that Nintendo is responsible. They mention they don't want to criticize Nintendo, but express sadness at the situation. Another letter, titled Mother 3 Criticisms, disagrees with the previous letter, stating that Nintendo is amazing and should not be blamed. This writer believes that canceling a game in development is a difficult decision, especially for highly anticipated titles like Mother 3. They believe that if a company cannot create something good, it is better to stop development. They argue that Nintendo is aiming for perfection, and that ideas are necessary for creating new things, even if it means projects are canceled. A reader feedback section discusses the cancellation of Mother 3 on N64, with one reader lamenting the betrayal to fans who expected the game and suggesting Nintendo should have finished it, drawing a comparison to Enix's Dragon Quest. Another reader anticipates the release of Furai no Shiren 2 on the N64. The editorial team sympathizes with the Mother 3 disappointment, acknowledging the time needed to realize ideals, and critiques the N64's market performance, while also highlighting the GameCube's superior performance. The section includes short reader comments, ranging from purchasing soundtracks and console bundles, to anecdotes about school exams, prize wins, and daily observations. This page is a price survey for Nintendo 64 games in Akihabara, Tokyo. It highlights that the volume of traded N64-related goods decreased last month, even in popular stores. The survey suggests that standard game prices are around 5,970 yen, and many stores are selling at this price or lower to ensure stable prices. The page features a table listing a wide range of N64 games with their Akihabara prices, release dates, player counts, and other details. Featured prominently in the Rare Game of the Month section is Motto, Matake Tamago Mezase, Rakuten Tamago, described as a kitchen-click adventure game, where the goal is to adventure in a mysterious kitchen. You click on items like ovens and fridges to progress to the next world, finding items along the way. The difficulty is said to be low, with minigames and mayonnaise-based recipes as part of the gameplay. It highlights that this game is a non-sale prize, obtained through a lottery for Ajinomoto mayonnaise flavoring seasoning, making it a very rare item not typically available in stores. Screenshots show the kitchen interface of the game, with clickable items and a slightly cartoonish style. This page is a software price list from Akihabara, focusing on Nintendo 64 games. It details a wide selection of titles with their fixed prices, Akihabara prices, release dates, and publishers. Notable games listed include wrestling titles like Shin Nippon Pro Wrestling, racing games such as Star Wars Episode 1 Racer and Diddy Kong Racing, and action-adventure classics like Star Wars, Shadows of the Empire, Star Fox 64, Super Mario 64, The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, and The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. Other genres are also well represented, with puzzle games like Tetris 64 and Puyo Puyo, and sports games such as Snowboard Kids and Top Gear Overdrive. The page also includes a section at the bottom listing Game Boy software prices, and notes that while Game Boy software prices remain relatively stable, Game Boy Color hardware prices are slightly increasing, reflecting market trends at the time of publication. This page showcases a comprehensive list of Super Famicom, Game Boy, and Game Boy Color games available for cartridge exchange. It's essentially a price list detailing the F and B block types, the game maker, and the price for each title. The Super Famicom section features a wide variety of popular titles, including Super Donkey Kong series, Super Metroid, Street Fighter II Turbo, multiple Rockman games, Mega Man, Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, Wizardry, and Super Mario World. It also includes games from Konami, like Ganbare Goemon, and Castlevania Dracula X. The list covers a broad spectrum of genres, from action to RPG. The Game Boy section includes titles such as Game Boy Gallery, Super Mario Land, Donkey Kong Land, Kirby's Block Ball, Street Fighter II, and Metroid 2 Return of Samus. It also features various puzzle games and titles from different makers. Lastly, the Game Boy Color section lists games like Kirby's Kira Kira Kids, Puzzle Bobble GB, Same Game, Tetris, and Dr. Mario. It is a similar format to the other sections, providing game titles, block information, makers, and prices for exchange. This page is an advert for the Nintendo GameCube console, featuring an interview with game analyst Hisakazu Hirabayashi. The text highlights the sensational announcement of the new Nintendo hardware, the GameCube, on August 24, 2000. The presentation revealed the console's innovative design and latest specifications, but many details remained unclear. This interview with Hirabayashi aims to delve into what can be understood about the GameCube from this announcement. The page also includes images of the purple GameCube console itself, Link from Zelda, and Meowth from Pokémon playing a guitar, likely in a promotional context. This page features an interview with Hisakazu Hirabayashi, discussing the naming of the GameCube. He reflects on attending Nintendo's new product presentation and being impressed by the GameCube name, finding it remarkably fitting. Hirabayashi explains the concept of vertical and horizontal media. He uses the internet and Yahoo as examples, explaining how previously media was consumed horizontally across different newspapers, TV channels, etc., but with the internet and portals like Yahoo, quote, information became vertically organized, bringing various media types together in one place. He draws a parallel with hospitals, where departments used to be separate but are now becoming more integrated. He mentions that the GameCube, and also the PS2 being able to be placed vertically, represents this shift towards vertical integration and media convergence, moving beyond just television to encompass a wider range of digital entertainment. The page also includes images of the GameCube logo and mock-up interfaces illustrating the Gacha directory and Yahoo Internet portal concept. This page features an interview titled, Hisakazu Hirabayashi, Talk About Nintendo GameCube. Hirabayashi discusses the naming of the GameCube, praising it as unique and thought-provoking, suggesting it reflects a broad worldview. He touches on e-commerce, mentioning websites like Ipara.com and Rakuten Ichiba, and expressing some skepticism about current online retail models for games. He believes the GameCube represents a distinct direction for Nintendo, separate from trends like DVD playback in consoles, contrasting it with the PS2. He reminisces about the history of games, starting from simple games like Pong in 1972, and how game development has progressed towards greater realism over the years. He also highlights Sony's approach to e-commerce, which focuses on lifestyle suggestions rather than just direct sales, and points out Takiro Takeda as someone with a clear vision for Nintendo's future. The next page features an article titled, About Nintendo GameCube, with Hisakazu Hirabayashi. He discusses the evolution of games, and his book, The Era of Games is Ending. Hirabayashi talks about how games are moving towards realism and questions if this is the only direction for game art. He uses painting history as an analogy, mentioning perspective and cubism, suggesting that games, like art, are still in a modern phase, focusing on concept and artistic expression. He mentions Picasso and Cubism in relation to the GameCube, hinting at a new direction for games beyond realism, perhaps something akin to the artistic innovation of Cubism. He references Super Mario 64 as a pivotal 3D game that set a new standard, and discusses the contrasting approaches of game companies like Hudson and Square, and Nintendo's potential direction with the GameCube, suggesting it's aiming for something broader than just realistic graphics and gameplay. He concludes by emphasizing the importance of fun computers in the future of gaming. The page also includes images of modern art and a book cover image titled Game Time Problem, which is Hirabayashi's book, The Era of Games is Ending. This page is an interview article titled, Hisakazu Hirabayashi, Talk About Nintendo GameCube. It discusses the concept of the GameCube and compares it to Sony's PlayStation 2. Hirabayashi talks about the evolution of games, moving from simple rules and competition to a more enjoyable computer experience. He emphasizes that Nintendo is embracing the term GameCube and focusing on game rather than computer entertainment like Sony. The interview also touches on the idea that the GameCube is being designed as a simple thing for gaming, contrasting it with the more complex multimedia approach of the PS2. There are also images of other media services discussed in relation to the GameCube's role in the evolving entertainment landscape, including multimedia, which mentions CD-ROMs and computers, CATV, which references cable TV and internet services, Bill Gateskin, referring to Xbox and its release, and Irakuya Gentetsu, which seems related to TV or broadcasting media. The article considers the GameCube's place in the future media landscape alongside these various forms of entertainment. An article about Nintendo GameCube. GameCube is a liberal arts machine, presents the concept of the GameCube as a liberal arts machine, or bunkei machine, according to Hisakazu Hirabayashi. This concept originated in a 1996 discussion between Hirabayashi and Mr. Takeda, where they envisioned the GameCube as a keyword and a console that would invite developers from liberal arts backgrounds into game development, contrasting the then-dominant focus on science and engineering. The article highlights concerns about restricting PC-style software development and Mr. Takeda's vision for a cutting-edge console. Nintendo aimed to broaden the pool of game developers by encouraging participation from those without primarily technical backgrounds. The article is accompanied by images including the E3 show, the Famicom console, a screenshot from Bachman, and a photo of Mr. Takeda and Mr. Miyamoto discussing the Gecko processor, developed by IBM. The article concludes with a question about the arrival of games utilizing the IBM/Matsushita PC architecture on the GameCube. This page features an interview titled, Hisakazu Hirabayashi, Talk About Nintendo GameCube. Hirabayashi starts by saying he was initially impressed with the N64 hardware. He talks about Nintendo shifting their approach with the GameCube, aiming to make game development easier compared to the N64 era, moving away from just first-party titles. He mentions that while Nintendo's games like Zelda, Mario, and Metroid will be sold, there should also be room for freely distributed freeware games on the GameCube. He compares development difficulty, stating N64 was hard, PlayStation was easier, PlayStation 2 became difficult again, but GameCube is supposedly easier. He feels Nintendo is only saying easy to develop to beat rivals. Hirabayashi criticizes the term licensing and wants Nintendo to treat third-party developers more as equal partners, suggesting terms like software acquirer instead of licensee. He emphasizes the importance of the international market, particularly America and Korea, and calls for Nintendo to create a better development environment and manuals in English, among other languages. He ends by hoping the GameCube can be a trustworthy platform if these issues are addressed, contrasting the licensing system with what he sees as a more respectful approach to developers like those behind Perfect Dark. In an interview, Hisakazu Hirabayashi discusses the future of gaming, focusing on the Nintendo GameCube. He predicts games will evolve beyond hardware sales, with licensing platforms and integrated game chips becoming key. He cites the success of Tetris on the Game Boy, highlighting how pivotal games can be for hardware. Hirabayashi envisions the Game Boy Advance evolving, potentially merging with phone technology. He draws parallels to the early 1980s when the Famicom shifted TV's role, and believes digital broadcasting could revitalize television. He anticipates non-fiction content and real-world events influencing future games. The interview is accompanied by images illustrating these points, including Tetris gameplay, Nintendo's new headquarters, digital TV listings, and a Panasonic portable DVD player. Matsushita Electric's plans for a portable disc-based gaming device, a potential competitor to the GameCube, are also noted, hinting at Nintendo's need to respond to new hardware developments. This page is focused on the game Eco Delta and features interviews with Marigold creators about the Nintendo GameCube. The producer, Hirabayashi, is interviewed about Eco Delta, describing it as a resource management game, like a business simulation, where you manage resources to win. He mentions it is intended to be a new genre of game, different from RPGs or simulations that were common in America, and aimed at Japanese children unfamiliar with this type of gameplay. He compares it to strategy games like StarCraft and Age of Empires, in terms of network play. Screenshots of Eco Delta and StarCraft are shown. It is mentioned that StarCraft is available on N64 in America, but not in Japan. There are also interviews with Kazutoshi Ida, who is excited about the Nintendo GameCube and its overall feel, and Muneaki Ozawa, who appreciates the GameCube from a player's perspective and highlights its AV output capabilities. In a Q&A from Ask Nintendo, Nintendo explains their media choices. They used cartridges for the N64 due to piracy concerns with CD-ROMs, prioritizing the best anti-copying technology. They transitioned to optical discs with the GameCube, using smaller 8 cm discs for enhanced copy protection, along with cheaper production costs and faster manufacturing. The GameCube discs offered a large 1.5 GB capacity. The page also includes a character data file about Yoshi and a photo of Shigeru Miyamoto. Due to recent product announcements, this month's Q&A is expanded. The GameCube's disk capacity is illustrated with a Super Mario 64 screenshot. GameCube software prices are expected to be slightly cheaper than N64 games due to lower DVD production costs. This Q&A section covers several aspects of the Nintendo GameCube. The use of 8cm discs was chosen for portability, ease of handling for children, and anti-copying measures. Demo versions might be considered if they don't hinder game development. N64 controllers are not compatible due to the evolution of the GameCube controller's analog triggers and C-Stick. The presented software included demo footage of games like Metroid and Wave Race. Upcoming flagship titles such as Mario, a launch title, and Zelda were confirmed, with further announcements expected at E3. The text also highlights the smaller size of the GameCube discs compared to CD-ROMs, along with a screenshot from Super Mario 128 showing multiple Mario characters. An Ask Nintendo section previews the upcoming Nintendo GameCube. Regarding design, Nintendo hints at a cohesive image, mentioning actual gameplay footage. While addressing movie game rumors, they emphasize a focus on gameplay experiences, not movie-filled games. They plan to announce a new GameCube product in August. Pricing is undecided but crucial, with analyst predictions between 19,800 to 25,000 yen. Nintendo cannot guarantee an initial price drop, citing hardware costs and production. Software sales could influence later reductions. Images include a press conference with Matsushita, Panasonic GameCube info, the Purple Console, and Zelda screenshots. This page is a Nintendo Q&A section answering questions about the GameCube and Game Boy Advance. Regarding the GameCube, it is stated that loading times should not be a concern due to improved RAM and technology. Although not zero, they will be less noticeable. Inserting a regular CD into the GameCube will do nothing, as it is designed for games, and Nintendo wants people to focus on playing games on it. A question about a Game Boy Advance TV tuner is addressed, explaining that while technically possible, TV is considered a rival to games, and battery life would be significantly reduced, making it impractical as Nintendo wants players to play games, not watch TV on their console. Finally, the white panel of the Game Boy Advance is explained as the latest LCD technology, improving on the Game Boy Color screen by providing better contrast and clearer visuals. The release date of the Game Boy Advance is mentioned as March 21st. There is a screenshot from The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time and images of the GameCube and Game Boy Advance consoles. This page is an Ask Nintendo section focusing on the Game Boy Advance. Question 14 asks about the most anticipated GBA software, and the answer points to Mario Kart Advance, highlighting its multiplayer capabilities and connectivity with the GameCube. Question 15 is about infrared communication on the GBA, confirming it's possible via an adapter due to cost considerations. Question 16 asks if the GBA can communicate with the original Game Boy, and the answer is yes, for older GB games using the original communication cable. However, a new communication cable will be required for GBA-specific games. Question 17 is a request to release Yoshi Story Advance, and the response mentions a Yoshi demo shown at Space World and implies that Shigeru Miyamoto is currently busy with Animal Crossing, suggesting a possible delay. Question 18 questions the inclusion of Famicom games in Animal Crossing, and the answer explains they are intended as furniture items in the game. The page also features images of the GBA console itself and a Game Boy Advance communication cable. The Nintendo Question Box Q&A section addresses several topics. Regarding The Legend of Zelda, Zelda's name was chosen for its medieval sound, and Link signifies his role in connecting the Triforce. Sheik's name derives from seek, and Impa's from impart. The article mentions the Princess Zelda was inspired by Zelda Fitzgerald. Anticipation surrounds Pokémon for the N64 and Game Boy Color, with heavy promotion planned and emphasis on features like remote trading. The release of Panel de Pon 64 remains uncertain. Other N64 titles, including Banjo-Kazooie, Conker's Quest, and Slime Racer 64, are hoped to be released around February of the following year. Screenshots show a Pokémon battle on the N64, potentially from Pokémon Stadium. This page is an Ask Nintendo section, featuring questions and answers from readers. Question 22 asks if Perfect Dark is worth buying, and the answer is a definite yes, highlighting its American-style CMs and mature themes, emphasizing the thrill of infiltration and mission briefings, noting to listen carefully to in-game sounds as clues. Question 23 asks why Game Boy game cases disappeared, with the answer being environmental concerns, explaining Nintendo's move towards paper trays and eco-friendly packaging. Question 24 is about the Sin and Punishment commercial, stating it will air from November 5th, emphasizing visual impact with explosions and CG gameplay, and also mentions a custom Robo V2 commercial focusing on 2-on-2 battles and tag matches, airing from October 29th. Question 25 asks about Yokoyama Megumi's National Number 2 claim in the Mario Tennis 64 commercial, clarifying it's just a CM setting, and she also appears in the Mario Tennis GB commercial, defeating N64 characters, mentioning the hard work filming the Mario Tennis GB commercial, even taking a whole day for a single yatter scene. Finally, question 26 asks why Metal Slayer Glory was added to Nintendo Power, the answer being, it's a Super Famicom title, as recent rewrites have focused on Game Boy games, and this is to remind players that Super Famicom games are still available, especially for dedicated fans of Metal Slayer Glory. This page from Nintendo's question box covers various topics. It mentions the game Metal Slayer Glory, originally for Famicom, and details that Nintendo's website was the first place for game information, with no pre-orders. A Q&A section explores popularity. While Mario and Pokemon are successful in America, it's difficult to declare a single most popular character. The Mario School TV program is discussed, clarifying it as a show with Mr. Merrick and Kaijin Zo, showing GameCube footage aimed to educate and entertain beyond just games. Nintendo employee happiness comes from family recognition and appreciation for their game creations. Wario's popularity in America is also noted, along with his appearance at Nintendo's E3 booth alongside Mario. A correction box addresses the broadcast schedule of the Mario School program. Finally, the page contains artwork of Kirby and someone holding an N64 controller, and a call for readers to submit questions for future Q&A sections. Quote, this page is all about the upcoming console wars, with the official entries of GameCube and Xbox shaking things up. The magazine questions what will become of the next generation of gaming machines, highlighting Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sega's positions. It mentions that at the next E3, Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony will be directly competing. There's news on N64 goods, specifically Shiren the Wanderer 2 merchandise. A postcard book and tabletop calendar featuring cool Shiren illustrations are being released. These are popular items, and the calendar is desktop type, so you can have Shiren with you for a whole year. They are both scheduled for release on November 1st, with the calendar costing 900 yen. Finally, there's a piece about the Sydney Olympics, specifically the gold medal ceremony for Yawaraka-chan, which is likely a nickname for judo gold medalist Tadahiro Nomura. Mr. Kawaguchi, from Nintendo's sales planning department, actually appeared at the ceremony. This event is mentioned in the context of an interview in the August E3 special edition of 64Dream magazine, and the article also briefly mentions a Pokemon event held locally. This page features several new product announcements and game-related news. Firstly, a new version of the Pokemon GB Mini Carry Bag is being released, featuring a design refresh in changing from skeleton black to skeleton blue color variations. Next, there's an announcement of Mario, Link, and Kirby-themed bags, including two-way bags, shoulder bags, and multi-rucksacks available for purchase, showcasing cool designs with character illustrations. A commercial song for the N64 game Perfect Dark is revealed to be Sexual Sniper by the popular band Siam Shade. The band members are pictured alongside the announcement. A professional baseball 12 teams player card game is highlighted as being well received and available for sale. Players can enjoy creating original teams using these cards. Lastly, a special campaign announces that purchasing Hiryu no Ken Densetsu GB, known internationally as Flying Dragon: The Secret Scroll on Game Boy Color, will include a bonus Famicom game, Hiryu no Ken 2i, likely referring to Flying Dragon: The Secret Scroll, which is also known as Hiryu no Ken 3 in Japan. This is part of a 20th anniversary celebration for the series. There is also a section showing the final part of a series about the Nintendo headquarters building. Bandai is releasing new products this month, including a Pokemon Park diorama set from the Pikachu and Pichu movie, featuring several play components. The Godzilla Total Advance Collection offers 19 Toho monster figures, including clear versions. The Super Camera Club is a plastic camera toy designed for outdoor use. Reader submissions about The Legend of Zelda are featured. including a Majora's Mask puzzle and a letter discussing the game's popularity. The Tokyo Game Show 2000 Autumn saw over 137,400 visitors, exceeding the previous show despite some major company absences. The show's appeal was strong, especially for N64 software, though the number of N64 exhibits was slightly down. Finally, a commercial for Mario Tennis GB on Game Boy Color was filmed in Tokyo, with model Yokoyama Megumin creating a lively atmosphere. The Nintendo Cup 2000, a national Pokémon tournament using Pokémon Stadium Gold and Silver on the Nintendo 64, was announced. The tournament was held across 10 locations in Japan from November 3rd to December 23rd. Applicants were required to apply via postcard, with selection potentially determined by lottery. Successful applicants would receive event details 1 week prior. Tournament rules allowed all 246 Pokémon, with teams of 6 and battles of 3. Level limits were set, and legendary Pokémon were banned. Item and move restrictions were in place to encourage fair play. Allowed game cartridges included red, green, blue, yellow, Pikachu, gold, and silver. The page also mentioned the launch of a new website for Brownie Brown, a company formed by former Square and Nintendo staff, though it currently lacked game-related information. Finally, it included a call for submissions for 4-panel manga themed around game software, particularly GameCube and Game Boy Advance games. Keitai Denju Telefang Speed Version and Power Version, a Game Boy Color RPG by Smilesoft and Natsume, released in Japan in 2020, focuses on befriending creatures called Denju using mobile phones. Players, as bodyguards, enter the Denju world with their companions to find stronger ones. The game features a top-down field map and turn-based battles, where players use menus to command their Denju allies. Players utilize in-game mobile phones to call for support from befriended Denju during combat, storing numbers, and accessing communication features. A physical power antenna, included with initial shipments, enhances in-game communication. The two versions offer distinct starting Denju, different encounter rates, and exclusive locations. Screenshots showcase version-specific Denju like Crypt and Fangus. This page introduces GB Herobots, a Game Boy Color RPG, where the familiar Gundam robot Hero transforms into a giant robot to battle. It's developed by Sunrise Interactive and was set to be released on December 1st, with a price of 4,800 yen. The page explains how to strengthen Hero not just by building robot data, but also through minigames and combining parts to improve performance. The game features battles in game centers, and also encounters with wild heroes outside of town. The protagonist is Noboru, and the game involves setting robot data to Hero to transform it into different robots. The page also highlights combination as a key element, and encourages players to experiment. Several characters are introduced alongside Noboru, including Yuko, the childhood friend, Noriko, a news announcer, Mitsuo, a rival, and Dr. Baro, a villainous scientist. The next page introduces two upcoming Game Boy Color titles. First is Mario Tennis GB, which is set to release on November 1st. This is a portable version of Mario Tennis, where you train in an academy, play matches against rivals, and develop your character. A key feature is linking with the Nintendo 64 game, Mario Tennis 64. By using a transfer pack, players can carry over characters and experience gained in the Game Boy Color version to the N64 game, enhancing both experiences. The second game is Zelda no Densetsu, Fushigi no Kino Mi, Daiichi no Sho, which is The Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Seasons, scheduled for release in January 2001. This article introduces the monsters that will appear. The game features unique monster movements and attack patterns, making dungeon exploration challenging but rewarding. It highlights familiar enemy characters from past Zelda games, creating a nostalgic yet fresh experience. Screenshots showcase enemies like Deku Nuts, Likes, Dodongos, Dark Nuts, Pazuzu Probos, and Octoroks, all redesigned for the Game Boy Color. This page showcases two Game Boy Color RPG titles. The first game is Sime Com Dungeon Dolur Arga, a dungeon RPG, where players invade each other's dungeons to steal jewels. It emphasizes strategic creature deployment and the use of spell cards in battles. The screenshots highlight dungeon exploration and combat scenarios. The second game featured is Tales of Fantasia Narikiri Dungeon for the Game Boy Color, a sequel to the popular Tales of Fantasia series. This game introduces the Narikiri, or costume change system, where equipping different job costumes alters character abilities and skills. The page notes over 100 costumes are available and mentions the familiar linear motion battle system from the series. Screenshots depict the protagonists Dio and Mel, map exploration, and costume selection. This page features the Game Boy Color game Shin Megami Tensei: Devil Children, highlighting the Red Book and Black Book versions. It explains the differences between the two versions, noting that while the game system is the same, the scenarios, main characters, and appearing devils differ. There are over 250 devils in total. Some devils can only be obtained through communication or fusion in one version, making communication play essential to complete the game. The page details 3 communication modes: battle, exchange, and fusion. In battle mode, players can fight against friends' devils. In exchange mode, devils can be traded. And in fusion mode, devils can be combined. Additionally, the page introduces the casino in the demon world, where players can enjoy games to win medals, which can then be exchanged for prizes. 2 minigames are shown: Big and Small and Codebreaker. Big and Small involves guessing if the next card number will be higher or lower, while Codebreaker is about guessing a 3-digit number. Screenshots show in-game scenes from battles, communication exchanges, the casino map, and the minigames. Character art of the protagonists from the Red Book and Black Book versions, along with various devils, are also displayed. This page is showcasing upcoming Game Boy Color releases. First up is Narrated 3 Parts Collection Z, an RPG expansion for Narrated 3 featuring new search functions, battle content, and 100 new robot parts. Players can now engage in robot battles with all the characters from Narrated 3. Next is Haru Haru-kun, another RPG based on the popular TV, anime, and comic series. In this gag-filled adventure, players take on the role of Haru Haru-kun and venture into a dream world to awaken children who have fallen asleep. Densha de Go 2 is a train-driving simulation game boasting a large 64 megabit ROM. It mirrors the arcade game system and includes various real-world train lines, such as the Akita Shinkansen and Osaka Loop Line. A new feature allows players to collect railway photographs. Finally, Hamster Paradise 3, Churui, is presented as the 3rd installment in the hamster breeding simulation series. Players can nurture different types of hamsters, including golden and robo-hamsters, and now even raise mini rabbits and squirrels. This page highlights 4 upcoming Game Boy Color titles. First up is Samurai Kid from Koei, an action puzzle game where you play as Homura Maru, solving puzzles and defeating monsters using weapons like the Hyotan, Katana, and Oki. It looks like a classic side-scrolling action game set in a Japanese castle. Next we have Donald Duck, Daisy wo Tasuke ni Iko, which translates to Donald Duck, Go Rescue Daisy. This action game from Ubisoft is all about helping Donald Duck rescue Daisy from the clutches of Magica de Spell. It's a side-scrolling platformer, with Donald exploring various levels. This was released internationally as Donald Duck, Goin' Quackers. Then there's Grandia, Parallel Trippers from Hudson, an RPG where characters from the Grandia series, including Yuhi, Justin, and Fina, find themselves in a parallel world. You'll be adventuring with familiar faces from the Grandia games in card-based battles. This game remained exclusive to Japan. Lastly, Konami presents Air Force Delta, a shooting game where you can engage in dogfights using planes like the F-22 and MiG-29, completing missions and buying new aircraft with earned money. It seems to be a flight simulator-style game where you can engage in intense aerial combat. This was also released internationally as Air Force Delta. This page showcases 4 Game Boy Color games. Firstly, Momotaro Densetsu One Right Pointing Arrow 2, an RPG set for December, combines the narratives of the first 2 Momotaro games, allowing players to carry over progress and enjoy a fortune-telling system. Next is Senkai Ibunroku, Juntai Taisen, a strategy game releasing in November, based on the anime Senkaiden Houshinengi. It features a story-driven experience with strategic battles. Following this is Magical Circle Guru Guru, an RPG coming in November, notable for its 4-player battle mode using cards. Players can collect cards to use in battles against each other. Lastly, Command Master, an action game also releasing in November, presents battles in 3 parts, where players need to input commands correctly using the G, B, and A buttons to succeed. The Illustration Special Grand Hall features fan art with an autumn theme. using a Mario-dressed Marshal as a mascot. The page showcases illustrations from various Japanese contributors. Artworks include a Pikachu autumn scene, Rockman X characters, children in straw hats, a sin and punishment image, Princess Peach, Link and fairy children, a Zelda-esque fairy, girls with onigiri, Kirby in a cozy room, a Zelda-themed blonde character, a group of Zelda-inspired characters, and a girl relaxing with a mushroom, potentially referencing The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. Mario Guardian Core features fan art and illustrations inspired by Nintendo 64 games, primarily focusing on the Legend of Zelda series. The first section displays detailed artwork from various artists depicting scenes and characters from Zelda, including depictions of Link, water temple scenes, and adult Link, alongside artist commentary. The second section showcases drawings by younger fans, including Kirby, Link, Peach, and Daisy, with artists providing brief descriptions and insights into their work. The final section presents fan letters with accompanying illustrations. These letters express admiration for the featured artwork and the artist, Sayaka Shiroi, and offer messages of support. Some letters also share personal details, like being part of the RO family, or drawing comics. This page showcases fan art submissions centered around the theme of adventure, with a focus on N64 games and other classic titles. Artwork includes Mario and Luigi from Super Mario 64, a perilous scene from The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, and illustrations from God Medicine, Game Boy, referencing the game's emotional story. The page also highlights 2 Ocarina of Time pieces featuring Link, and 1 referencing Super Mario 64. Additional submissions feature Pokemon characters and Kirby in various scenarios, including one referencing Kirby's Dream Land 3 and another comical piece with kitchenware equipment. Each artwork is accompanied by a comment from the submitter, all originating from different prefectures in Japan. This page showcases fan-created content themed around Nintendo 64 games, titled Mario Parent and Child Vanguard. The page has an illustration corner featuring fan art inspired by different games. One illustration is for Mega Man Legends, called Rockman-Steel's Adventure. Another illustration references wizardry. There is also art inspired by what appears to be Secret of Mana 2, referred to as Legend of the Holy Sword 2, and Earthbound, known as Mother 2 in Japan, with the Gummy family enemies highlighted. Paper Mario, called Mario Story in Japan, is also featured in an illustration. Strangely, there's an illustration mentioning the Silent Hill series, which is not an N64 game. In the center is a section titled Cooperation Heart, which introduces the Collaboration Work Squad members, Zubaringumi and Uindo, who are working on collaborative projects. Finally, the page includes a 4-panel longhouse section with short comic strips. One comic is titled Smash Brothers Food Binge, likely referencing Super Smash Bros., focusing on Samus Aran. Another comic is named Sleepyhead Link, about the Legend of Zelda, possibly Ocarina of Time. There's a comic titled Hide and Seek Assembly, featuring Shy Guy, and potentially related to Super Smash Bros. Again. Lastly, a comic titled Waddle Dee Group appears to be related to Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards. This page showcases fan art submissions from readers. There's art inspired by Grandia and Popolo Cry's story. One section features autumn-themed art. Another highlights fan art for The Legend of Zelda. Oracle of Seasons/Ages, created by siblings. There is a fan expressing gratitude for the magazine, alongside Zelda-style artwork. A unique piece combines Sin and Punishment and Zelda, depicting Link in Sin and Punishment style. Fan art for Mega Man is included, and another piece imagines an older Marin from an unknown game, reminiscing about Link and Navi from The Legend of Zelda. A humorous image shows Daisy and Peach wearing each other's respective partners' hats. There is also a tennis-themed artwork referencing The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, although featuring characters not directly from that game. Pokemon characters are shown alongside a mention of Mario Golf 64. Another artwork includes Link and a fairy, with a comment about the vibrant world of the Pokemon anime. Simple cartoonish-style Legend of Zelda fan art is present, as well as Star Fox characters Fox and Slippy. An illustration seemingly inspired by Fire Emblem highlights the prominent roles of female characters. Finally, there's a Zelda artwork referencing Maple the Apprentice Witch, and an item scramble battle, possibly a crossover with another series. This page is a fan art submission section called Mario Imperial Guard. It showcases various fan-created illustrations related to Nintendo 64 games, predominantly featuring characters from the Mario and Zelda franchises. One artwork seems to reference Ogre Battle 64, Person of Lordly Caliber, while another depicts characters with a Fire Emblem logo, and a Star Fox 64 illustration showing Peppy, Fox, Falco, and Slippy. There are multiple Zelda-themed drawings, including one of Beaver Brothers, from what appears to be The Legend of Zelda. Majora's Mask, another showing both adult and child Link, possibly from The Legend of Zelda. Ocarina of Time, and a colored pencil drawing of Link with a Goron face, again likely referencing Majora's Mask's transformations. One illustration is of a boy with a hamster-like creature named Koopa, and another is a humorous drawing of Mario with a beard made of braids. A final illustration features Link, surrounded by popular Nintendo characters. The page also contains lists of names categorized under headings that seem to indicate ranks or promotion candidates within the Imperial Guard, and information about submitting illustrations for a contest. The bottom section provides submission guidelines and the magazine's address. This page delves into Perfect Dark for the Nintendo 64, focusing on unlockable content and cheat codes. It details the Combat Arena mode, explaining that by completing challenges, players can unlock new arenas. The page lists arenas like Ruins, Warehouse, Mine Base, Temple, G5 Building, Grid, Factory, and others, along with the number of challenges needed to unlock each. Similarly, it covers combat weapons, outlining how completing challenges unlocks weapons such as the Farsight, G-Launcher, Shotgun, Falcon 2 Silencer, S-Dragon, and many more. The number of challenges required for each weapon is also listed. The page also touches on Combat Simulant, detailing that completing challenges unlocks different simulants of varying strengths. Lastly, it mentions a shop level up tip, explaining how to level up the shopkeeper in a dungeon crawling scenario within the game. It describes an action of throwing an Uko at the shopkeeper, causing them to become angry and attack, which then leads to the shopkeeper leveling up upon defeat. This page details various gameplay techniques for the Japan-exclusive N64 game. Mystery Dungeon, Shiren the Wanderer 2. Techniques include using rice balls to choke onigiri-type monsters, discovering a hidden room with a secret message in Mount Shutendoji's village, and learning and using charms at the shrine. Players can also build and admire castles, utilizing signboards to observe in-castle events. The Stick of Knowledge reveals monster information and is effective against certain enemies when used with thrown items. A Gitan Bomb technique involves throwing the in-game currency, Gitan, at monsters for damage. The page concludes with a call for player submissions of their own dream techniques, offering prizes for outstanding entries via postcard or fax. Nintendo's Game & Watch handhelds were a massive hit in the 1980s, popularizing simple, portable electronic gaming before the Famicom. These battery-powered devices evolved from basic LCDs to larger, more visible screens, eventually including color. The article discusses the Game Boy Gallery series, which revitalized classic Game & Watch titles with both original and modernized modes. Additionally, the page features Mario Tennis GB, highlighting its character customization and suggesting it as a training tool for the N64's Mario Tennis. The single-featured software, available until November 21st, encourages players to hone their skills in Mario Tennis GB to improve in Mario Tennis 64, particularly focusing on Luigi's angled serve for multiplayer success. Joy Merc Fight is a 2D fighting game for the Famicom, featuring simplified robot characters due to system limitations. Players control one of 8 unique robots in a quest to stop Dr. Walnut's world domination. Each robot, designed by different doctors, has distinct fighting styles and special moves, including the hero Sukapon. Gameplay involves a quest game mode with a heart meter and point meter that must be maintained to avoid a game over. Players can also engage in 1P versus COM and 1P vs 2P battles. Controls are straightforward with punches, kicks, and special moves activated by simple button combinations. The game offers beginner-friendly controls and practice modes. This page is titled GBA Gathering Bug Academy and features a comic strip-style page showing the behind-the-scenes process of creating game articles for a magazine. The comic stars a Wario-like character diligently working on a computer to meet deadlines, highlighting the busy work environment of game journalism. Another character, a scientist, is shown using a large camera, possibly to capture game screenshots for the articles. The text mentions that recently, They have been incorporating images into their articles using computers and are still working on coloring them, but that working on the manuscript is enjoyable. They wonder if the day will come when they can draw the 64Dream manuscripts on a computer. The text describes how the Wario character efficiently finishes tasks and keeps up a fast pace of work. The editor mentions that when viewing the filmed footage, they were unsure when the work would finish, and the article production was initially mysterious. But through the editorial department's experience, game introduction articles can now be created easily. They mention that readers might change their perspective on game articles after reading this. The text also notes that each editor is assigned specific software to cover, and mentions shooting game system is like Kei Shosajo, as a reference to the individuality of editors' assignments and tastes. This page is about how game articles are made for 64Dream magazine. It explains the process that game magazine editors go through to create reviews. The editors first play the games they are assigned to cover, and if it's a sequel, they play the previous game in the series as well. They also visit the game developers and manufacturers sometimes. The page mentions that sample ROMs are used for previewing games before release, referencing Mario Tennis 64 as an example of a game being tested in this way. A cartoon image of a sample ROM cartridge labeled Mario Tennis 64 is shown. There's also a section discussing the editorial department right before the deadline, depicting a chaotic scene with characters like Wario and other staff. The text suggests it's a busy and stressful environment, like a battlefield, full of the groans and shouting of editors. The page concludes with an address for reader submissions and mentions reader surveys related to games and the editorial department, and also asks for opinions from parents regarding video games. The bottom right shows Star Fox characters among others. This page showcases a reader's giveaway with a variety of prizes. Up for grabs are both teal and water blue Game Boy Color consoles, and bundles of assorted N64 and Game Boy games. Specific game prizes highlighted include the acclaimed N64 first-person shooter Perfect Dark and the classic Game Boy title Golf. Other prizes include Pokemon-themed items like carry bags and tags, a practical N64 travel pouch, and a special Space World t-shirt given to staff at the event. There's also a selection of goods related to the Japanly Game Boy Color titles Magical Chase, Soul Getter, and baseball card Dream Stadium 2000. A significant portion of the prizes are dedicated to the Japan-exclusive N64 game Furai no Shiren 2, featuring a signed copy of the game, a postcard book, and a 2001 calendar. This 64Dream magazine questionnaire seeks reader feedback on the current issue. Readers are asked to rate articles, selecting favorites and least favorites from a list including titles like Zelda Calendar, Pokemon Stadium, and Perfect Dark. Separate tables list anticipated N64 and GBA software, such as Animal Crossing and Castlevania, Circle of the Moon. The survey also asks readers which game series they currently buy and which games they'd like to see continued on GameCube. Additionally, the page lists winners of a giveaway, with prizes including consoles, games, and merchandise. Finally, a column by Mochi discusses manga, referencing titles like Dog Night Fork and Vikings. This page is an index page for the magazine and announces that the next issue, the January issue, will be released on November 21st, priced at 490 yen. The page lists contact information for the editorial department, including address, email, and phone number. The next menu section highlights upcoming articles featuring Pokemon Crystal, Perfect Dark, and Silent Hill 2. The editor's voice section contains staff comments mentioning the creation of a Nintendo character calendar featuring Zelda characters, finding a Game Boy cartridge at school, and frequent visits to game stores for sales. The page also lists the magazine's staff members and their roles. An advertisement for the December issue of 64Dream, called Nintendo Stadium of the Month, promotes its release on October 21, 2000, and mentions featuring Pokemon Crystal and Harvest Moon GB3. A small comic strip at the top right corner features Mario characters. This page is an advertisement for the Nintendo 64 game Perfect Dark. The text highlights the game's atmosphere as quietly and boldly, introducing Agent Joanna Dark and stating, "It was the beginning of an unimaginable incident." It's advertised as now on sale, and it's emphasized that the game requires a memory expansion pack to play. The ad lists features such as 1 to 4 players, 3D gun action, memory expansion pack usage, vibration pack support, and controller pack support. It notes that it is a game made with an original scenario and contains violent scenes. The advertisement showcases 2 purchase options. one including the memory expansion pack, priced at 7,800 yen, and another for the game cartridge, only at 5,800 yen. The text mentions mission play, where players become Joanna Dark to undertake infiltration, destruction, and fierce battles. And up to 4 players can play, versus matches with customizable rules and weapons. It is published by Rareware and distributed exclusively by Nintendo. This page is an advertisement for the Game Boy Color game, Tales of Phantasia, Narrated Dungeon. It highlights the Narrated costume system, where the characters Meryl and Dio can change clothes to gain new abilities in different jobs. The game was scheduled to be released on November 10th for a price of 4,500 yen,